The warm glow of the bakery wrapped around everyone like a comforting embrace. The scent of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries filled the air, inviting smiles and soft conversations. Behind the glass display, rows of cakes gleamed under the golden lights: chocolate, vanilla, fruit-topped delights, each more tempting than the last. Emma stood behind the counter, her cheerful smile as bright as the room itself. Beside her, Daniel adjusted his apron, greeting customers with an easy charm. Together, they made the bakery feel less like a shop and more like a home. That afternoon, an elderly couple stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed softly, but there was something about them that made Emma pause for just a second. The man leaned slightly on a cane, his movements careful but dignified. The woman held his arm gently, her presence calm and reassuring. "Welcome," Emma said warmly. "Take your time." The couple moved closer to the display. Their eyes wandered over the cakes, but there was no rush in their choice. It was as if they weren't just looking at desserts, they were reliving memories. "These remind me of our anniversary," the woman said softly, her voice filled with nostalgia. The old man smiled faintly. "You always loved the strawberry ones." Emma's heart softened at their words. She leaned slightly forward. "Would you like to try a slice? It's fresh today." They exchanged a quiet glance before nodding. It was a simple moment, yet it carried years of shared life, something rare and beautiful. As Emma prepared the plate, Daniel noticed something else. Near the entrance, a man stood still. He was dressed sharply in a dark suit, completely out of place in the cozy, flower-dusted warmth of the bakery. His expression was serious, too serious. While others looked at cakes, he wasn't interested in desserts at all. He was watching the elderly couple. Daniel frowned slightly but said nothing. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe the man was just waiting for someone. Still, something about his stillness felt wrong. Emma handed the plate to the couple, who thanked her with gentle smiles. The woman carefully held the fork while the man took a small bite. For a brief second, his tired eyes lit up. "It tastes just like it used to," he whispered. Emma felt a quiet joy seeing them happy. But that feeling quickly faded when she noticed the man in the suit again. He hadn't moved. And now, he was closer. Her smile faltered for just a moment, but she hid it quickly. Customers shouldn't feel uncomfortable. Still, a strange unease crept into her chest. "Daniel," she whispered softly, without turning her head, "do you see that man?" Daniel nodded slightly. "Yeah, I noticed him. He's been watching them the whole time." Daniel crossed his arms casually, trying not to draw attention. Maybe it's nothing. But deep down, he wasn't so sure. The elderly woman laughed gently at something her husband said, unaware of the quiet tension building behind them. It was a peaceful moment, too peaceful, almost fragile, like something that could break at any second. The man in the suit took another step forward. This time, there was no doubt about it. He wasn't here for pastries. Emma's fingers tightened slightly against the counter. A strange feeling settled in her mind, one she couldn't explain. It wasn't fear exactly, but it wasn't comfort either. It was the feeling that something was about to happen. Something that would change everything. And the worst part, the elderly couple had no idea they were being watched. Not just watched, but followed. The soft clinking of forks against porcelain plates filled the bakery, blending with quiet laughter and the hum of casual conversation. To anyone else, it was just another peaceful afternoon. But for Emma and Daniel, something had shifted. Emma kept her smile, but her eyes flicked toward the man in the suit again. He was pretending to glance at the shelves now, as if suddenly interested in bread he hadn't even noticed before. But it was obvious, too obvious. His attention kept drifting back to the elderly couple. Daniel leaned slightly closer to Emma. "He's getting closer," he murmured under his breath. "I know," Emma replied softly. "What do we do?" Before Daniel could answer, the man made his move. He stepped forward with calm confidence, stopping just a few feet behind the couple. For a moment, he said nothing. He simply stood there, watching them. Then, in a low, controlled voice, he spoke. "Mr. Harrison." The old man froze. The fork slipped slightly in his hand, tapping softly against the plate. His eyes widened, not in confusion, but in recognition. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The elderly woman looked up, her gentle smile fading. "Do you know him?" she asked quietly. The old man didn't answer right away. His grip tightened on his cane as he slowly turned his head. "Yes," he said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. I was hoping I wouldn't. The air in the bakery seemed to grow heavier. Daniel straightened, his instincts kicking in. This wasn't a random encounter. This was something personal, something serious. The man in the suit gave a faint, polite smile, but there was no warmth in it. It's been a long time, he said. You've been difficult to find. Emma's heart began to race. This wasn't normal. People didn't talk like this, not in a place like this. The elderly woman placed her hand gently over her husband's. What is this about? She asked, her voice trembling now. The man ignored her. His eyes remained locked on Mr. Harrison. You disappeared, he continued. No records. No trace. It's almost impressive. I left that life behind, Mr. Harrison said firmly, though his voice carried a hint of strain. You should do the same. That's not how it works, the man replied coldly. Daniel stepped out from behind the counter, his presence calm but protective. Is there a problem here? He asked, his tone polite but cautious. The man finally looked at him. For a brief second, something sharp flickered in his eyes, annoyance, maybe even warning. No problem, he said smoothly. Just an old conversation. Emma didn't believe that for a second. Neither did Daniel. Mr. Harrison slowly pushed his plate away, his appetite clearly gone. The peaceful moment from before had vanished completely, replaced by a quiet tension that gripped the room. You shouldn't have come here, Mr. Harrison said. I didn't come here for the bakery, the man replied. The meaning behind his words hung in the air like a storm about to break. The elderly woman tightened her hold on her husband's arm. We should go, she whispered urgently. But before they could stand, the man took a step closer. Leaving won't change anything, he said. You know that. Emma felt her pulse pounding in her ears. Every instinct told her this situation was dangerous. Daniel took another step forward, placing himself slightly between the man and the couple. I think it's time for you to leave, he said firmly. The man's gaze shifted to him again, this time colder. For a moment, no one moved. Then, unexpectedly, the man smiled. Not kindly, not warmly, but like someone who already knew how this would end. This isn't over, he said quietly, his voice carrying a quiet threat. He turned and walked toward the door. The bell chimed as he stepped outside, disappearing into the fading light of the evening. Silence filled the bakery. Emma exhaled slowly, not realizing she had been holding her breath. Daniel turned back to the elderly couple. But what he saw made his stomach tighten. Mr. Harrison wasn't just shaken, he was terrified, and whatever past he had tried to escape had just found him again. For a long moment after the man in the suit walked out, no one in the bakery spoke. The warm, comforting atmosphere that once filled the room had vanished completely. Even the soft golden lights now felt dim, as if the shadow he left behind still lingered in every corner. Emma stepped out from behind the counter, her voice gentle but urgent. Sir, are you all right? Mr. Harrison didn't respond immediately. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped his cane, his eyes fixed on the door through which the man had disappeared. It was as if he expected him to return at any second. The elderly woman tightened her hold on him. Please, she whispered, tell them what's going on. Daniel moved closer, lowering his voice. We can help, but we need to understand. Mr. Harrison closed his eyes for a brief moment, as though gathering strength. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but heavy with years of hidden truth. That man, he began, he's not just anyone. He belongs to a past I buried long ago. Emma and Daniel exchanged a quick glance. What kind of past? Emma asked carefully. Mr. Harrison hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn photograph. His fingers lingered on it before handing it to Emma. She looked down. The picture showed a much younger version of Mr. Harrison, standing beside two other men. One of them had a familiar face. Emma's heart skipped. It's him, she said softly. The man from today. Mr. Harrison nodded. We weren't always ordinary people, he continued. Years ago, I was part of something dangerous. Something I should have walked away from much sooner. Daniel frowned. Dangerous how? Mr. Harrison's jaw tightened. We dealt with things people weren't supposed to see. Information, money, power. The kind of world where leaving isn't allowed. The words settled heavily in the air. Emma felt a chill creep up her spine. So, He came back for you. Yes, Mr. Harrison said. But not just to find me. The elderly woman looked at him, fear growing in her eyes. Then why? Mr. Harrison turned to her, his expression softening with regret. Because I took something with me when I left. Daniel's voice dropped. What did you take? Mr. Harrison hesitated again. Then he said it. Proof. Silence. Emma blinked. Proof of what? Of everything they did, he replied. Records, names, transactions, enough to destroy them all. Daniel exhaled slowly. So he wants it back. Mr. Harrison shook his head. No. If he wanted it back, he would have taken me already. A cold realization began to form in Emma's mind. Then what does he want? She asked. Mr. Harrison looked toward the door again, his face pale. He wants to make sure I never use it. The words sent a shiver through all of them. The elderly woman's grip tightened. We should go home, she said, her voice trembling. We shouldn't stay here. But Daniel shook his head. If he followed you here, your home might not be safe. Emma nodded. He already knows where you are. Leaving without a plan could make things worse. Mr. Harrison let out a slow, tired breath. I never wanted this life to touch anyone again, especially not her. He gently placed his hand over his wife's. Emma looked at them both, her expression now filled with determination. Then we won't let it. Daniel glanced at her, slightly surprised, but he understood. What are you thinking? He asked. Emma took a deep breath. We keep them here for now. Lock the doors. Call someone we trust, maybe the authorities. Mr. Harrison immediately shook his head. No police. Why not? Daniel asked. Because if this reaches them, it won't stay hidden anymore, he said. And when that happens, more people will come. The tension in the room thickened again. Emma's mind raced. They were trapped between two dangers, running or staying. Then suddenly, the bell above the door rang again. All four of them froze. Slowly, very slowly, Daniel turned his head toward the entrance. The door creaked open, and someone stepped inside, but it wasn't the man from before. This time, it was worse, because the person who entered was smiling. The soft chime of the door echoed through the bakery like a warning. Everyone turned. A woman stepped inside, elegantly dressed, her posture calm, her smile almost too perfect. She looked nothing like a threat. But somehow, that made it worse. Emma felt it instantly. Danger. Good evening, the woman said sweetly, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Mr. Harrison. I see you've already been visited. Mr. Harrison's face turned pale. I was afraid they'd send you next. The woman chuckled softly. Of course they did. I'm better with persuasion. Daniel stepped forward again, more firmly this time. This is private property. You need to leave. She glanced at him, amused. You're brave. That's rare. Emma moved closer to the elderly couple, her voice steady despite the fear rising inside her. What do you want? The woman's smile faded slightly as she answered, something that doesn't belong to him anymore. Mr. Harrison straightened, gripping his cane tightly. It belongs to the truth. For the first time, the woman's expression hardened. Truth, she repeated. Truth doesn't matter. Control does. Silence fell again. Emma's mind raced. This wasn't just about one man's past anymore, this was something bigger. Something dangerous. The woman took a slow step forward. Let's not make this complicated. Give me the proof, and no one here gets hurt. The elderly woman clutched her husband's arm, trembling. Please, just give it to her, she whispered. Mr. Harrison looked at her, pain in his eyes. If I do, everything we lived for means nothing. Emma felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just fear anymore. It was a choice. She stepped forward suddenly, surprising everyone, including herself. What if there's another way? She said. The woman raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Emma took a deep breath. You don't want the proof back. You want control over it. But what if it's already out of your reach? A flicker of uncertainty crossed the woman's face. Explain. Emma glanced at Daniel. He understood immediately. It's already been sent, Daniel said, backing her up. Multiple places. If anything happens to him, it goes public. The woman's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing, are we? Emma replied, her voice calm but firm. Do you really want to take that risk? For the first time since she entered, the woman hesitated. The room held its breath. Mr. Harrison looked at Emma, realization dawning in his eyes. She was giving him a chance, not just to survive, but to finally do what he never could before. He reached into his coat again. But this time, instead of pulling out the proof, he pulled out a small phone. With trembling fingers, he pressed a single button. "I'm not running anymore," he said quietly. The woman's expression changed completely. "What did you just do, Mr.?" Harrison looked up, a strange calm settling over him. "I said it. Everything." The silence that followed was heavier than anything before. "You've made a mistake," the woman said coldly. "No," he replied. "I've corrected one." Outside, faintly in the distance. Sirens. The woman's composure cracked for just a second. She glanced toward the door, calculating, then back at them. "This isn't the end," she said. Emma met her gaze. "Maybe not. But it's a beginning." For a moment, it seemed like the woman might argue. But then, she smiled again. Not kindly, not warmly, but differently. "Then let's see where it leads," she said, before turning and walking out into the night. The bell chimed once more. And then, silence. But this time, it felt different. Not heavy. Not fearful. Free. The elderly woman broke down in quiet tears, holding her husband tightly. "Mr." Harrison closed his eyes, as if a burden he carried for decades had finally lifted. Daniel exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair. "That was intense." Emma let out a small, shaky laugh. "Yeah, it was." Moments later, the flashing lights outside painted the bakery windows red and blue. Help had arrived. But more importantly, the truth had been set free. Moral of the story: running from the past may buy time, but facing it with courage can set you free, not just for yourself, but for everyone it touches.